Let me tell you a story about a man named Megram, and about the very last day he ever went to work. Now, for most of us, a day like that is, well, it's complicated. But for Megram, it was actually incredibly simple.
I mean, think about it. Retirement is a huge deal. It's the end of a chapter. You're saying goodbye to coworkers who've become your second family, to a routine that shaped your life for, what, decades? So yeah, it makes total sense that for a lot of people, it's a sad day, a time for tears.
But here's the thing. Megram wasn't sad at all. He wasn't crying. He was happy. And that's the central question here, isn't it? Why? What made his experience so different? The answer, it turns out, is way deeper than you might think.
See, his happiness, it had nothing to do with the usual stuff. It wasn't about finally getting to go home to his village, or even about just getting to rest his weary body. Nope, his joy was about something being lifted. It was a release from a massive burden he had carried for his entire life.
To really get what he was being released from, we have to go back. We have to go deep, deep underground, into the world where Megram spent almost every single day of his adult life.
His journey started when he was just a kid, really. Only 15 years old when he showed up in the town of Danyan, ready to work. And over the years, he learned the ropes, he grew, and eventually became this incredibly skilled, well-respected mine supervisor. And then, at 55, after 4 full decades, it was over.
Let's just sit with that number for a second. 40 years. Can you even imagine descending into total darkness every single day for 40 years? It's a kind of commitment, especially in a job that dangerous that most of us just can't wrap our heads around.
So how did he do it? How did that 15-year-old kid manage to not just survive, but actually thrive down there? Well, it boiled down to a pretty simple philosophy. He showed up knowing nothing, a total blank slate, but he grabbed every single opportunity he could, he put his faith in good old-fashioned hard work, and you know what? He did it all with a smile.
Okay, and this is where his story gets really fascinating. Because this isn't just about having a long career. It's about this unique, almost spiritual bond he formed with the mine itself. He didn't just see it as a workplace. To him, it was a living thing, an entity he had to make a bargain with every single day. Every morning, when he got in that lift and went down into the shaft, this was his reality. He could hear the creaks and groans of the earth all around him. He knew that no matter how good the engineering was, survival was never, ever a sure thing. The mine could decide to take him at any second.
And this created this incredible split inside of him. On the outside, to everyone else, he was the supervisor, the guy in charge, the expert who knew every twist and turn of those tunnels. But on the inside, he was terrified. And he was carrying this secret, this constant need to ask for forgiveness.
Forgiveness for what? Well, this quote says it all. He didn't think of his job as just digging. He saw it as a violent act, as ripping its gut. And he believed that the only reason he was allowed to do it, and the only reason he survived it, was because the mine itself let him. It was a choice the mine made. So he developed this personal philosophy, this belief he called the mine's wish. You can think of it like a spiritual contract. He believed his life wasn't in his own hands or even in the hands of the safety engineers. It was a daily gift from a living, breathing earth, and it was a gift he received only in exchange for his daily prayers, his penance for the harm he was causing. This whole belief system turned into a daily ritual, a cycle that pretty much defined his entire life. Going to work wasn't just a commute, it was an emotional journey. First, face the fear of being swallowed whole. Then, feel the heavy guilt of tearing into the earth. Then, offer a prayer for forgiveness. And only then, only after all that, could he hope to survive, thanks to the mine's wish. Which brings us right back to his last day, his retirement. This is the moment that 40-year-long bargain finally comes to a close. It's the end of a lifetime of fear and prayer, and it all comes down to one final, beautiful promise. And right here, this is the reason for his happiness. It wasn't about not having to work anymore. It was about the absence of that crushing fear and the lifting of that profound guilt that he carried with him every single day. For the very first time in his adult life, he was free. His penance was over.
Before he turned his back on that place for good, he did his ritual one last time. But you have to imagine this prayer was different. It wasn't a desperate plea to survive another day. It was a prayer of thanks, a farewell, and a promise to this thing that had both threatened him and protected him for 40 years.
And that was his promise, the final term of his lifelong bargain. The mine had granted him 40 years of life, so in return, he would now grant the earth its peace. He would never again take from it. His penance was done. He had finally received the earth's grace.
You know, in the end, Megram's story is so much bigger than just one man's life. It really forces you to look past the dollar signs, past the economic value of all the stuff we pull out of the ground. It makes you ask, what is the real human and spiritual cost paid by the people who do this work? A price that isn't measured in money, but in fear, in guilt, and in a lifetime of penance.